Think about this for a second. Every single day, you make decisions based on chance. But what if chance isn't actually just luck? What if it's a strict, unyielding set of mathematical rules hiding right there in plain sight?
How do casinos mathematically guarantee they make millions of dollars every single year, even when every game they offer on the floor is based entirely on pure chance? I mean, they don't have a crystal ball, they don't use magic, they rely on the rigid, unbending rules of probability.
By the end of this lecture, you'll see exactly how they pull it off. You're going to master the foundational concepts of probability, the actual step-by-step formula behind calculating odds, and, most importantly, how to apply these rules to real-world data so you can see the matrix for yourself.
Section 1. The core of probability.
Before we start calculating the odds of winning or losing, we've got to nail down what we're actually observing. Now, an experiment in statistics isn't just test tubes and lab coats. It's any planned operation carried out under controlled conditions where the result is a chance outcome. Flipping a coin is the perfect example. You control the flip, you control the coin, but the exact result? That's not predetermined. That is chance.
Now consider this next crucial term, sample space, which we always represent with a capital letter S. The sample space is literally just the entire universe of everything that could possibly happen in our experiment. If you flip that coin, your sample space is just two things, heads or tails. It's the complete, exhaustive list of every single possible outcome.
Section 2. Calculating the odds. Let's see how this builds into actual math.
There is an absolute hard limit to probability. Mathematically, probabilities always exist precisely between the numbers 0 and 1. That's it. If a probability is exactly 0, it means the event is impossible. No way it ever happens. If it's 1, it's an absolute certainty. And right there in the middle, at 0.5, that means the event is equally likely to occur or not occur.
Okay, so how do we actually find that number? Let's walk through this foundational two-step formula together. Step 1. Count the number of outcomes for your target event. Let's say our target is getting a heads on a coin flip. That's one outcome. Step 2. Divide that by the total number of outcomes in your sample space. We know a coin has heads and tails, meaning there are two total outcomes. 1 divided by 2 is 0.5. Pretty simple, right? But, and this is a big but, this entirely assumes all outcomes are equally likely.
Which brings up a really vital question you might be asking right now. Wait, what if the coin or the die isn't actually fair? What happens when our baseline assumption of equally likely outcomes is completely broken? Well, this is where theoretical math crashes headfirst into reality.
Section 3. The law of large numbers.
To answer that question, we have to look at empirical data. There's a clear contrast we need to make here. Theoretical probability is what the pristine mathematical odds say should happen. Empirical probability is what we actually observe happening in the messy real world over many repetitions. And the law of large numbers states that your observed empirical frequencies will only inch closer and closer to your theoretical probability over a massive number of trials.
Let's look at a fascinating real-world example from our source material. A couple of math professors in Europe had their statistics students test the Belgian €1 coin. Now, you'd expect a clean 50-50 split, right? But after 250 trials, they observed 56% heads and 44% tails. The empirical data showed the coin was actually biased.
And this brilliantly illustrates the answer to our casino question from the very beginning of this lecture. Casinos don't use regular dice from your board games at home. Those have slight weight imbalances from the carved-out dots. Casino dice are heavily engineered. They have perfectly flat faces. The holes are filled in completely with paint that has the exact same density as the material the die is made out of. They actively engineer out physical bias to perfectly maintain their theoretical probability and protect their mathematical edge. Honestly, it's pure calculated genius.
Section 4. Combining events. And, or. Let's turn things up a notch.
In the real world, life is rarely just a single coin flip. Usually multiple events are interacting at once. This next concept clears up a very common point of confusion for students, so pay close attention. An OR event, which mathematicians call a union, means the outcome is in event A, or in event B, or in both. It casts a super wide net. But an AND event, an intersection, is incredibly strict. The outcome must be in both A and B at the exact same time. If it doesn't meet both conditions simultaneously, it simply doesn't count.
So we know how to calculate when things happen, or when multiple things happen together, but let's flip the script. What if we specifically want to know what does not happen?
That introduces the concept of a complement, denoted by the letter A with a little prime symbol next to it. There is a strict mathematical rule you need to know here. The probability of an event plus the probability of its complement always equals exactly 1. A complement is just everything not in your target event. If the probability of rain is 20%, the complement, the probability of it not raining, must be 80%. Together, they perfectly complete our universe of outcomes.
Section 5. Complements and Conditions. Now we are ready for the most advanced topic of this lecture. What happens when newly introduced information changes the rules of the game while you're playing? This is called conditional probability. And the crucial takeaway here, the one thing you absolutely must remember, is that a condition literally reduces your sample space. By knowing that an event B has already occurred, your universe of possible outcomes immediately shrinks.
Let's walk through this sample table together, just like we're at a whiteboard. This data shows a sample of 100 individuals, categorized by gender and whether they are right or left-handed. Suppose we want to find the conditional probability that a subject is right-handed given the condition that the subject is male. Let's apply our formula step by step. Step 1, we find our newly reduced sample space. Because we are given the strict condition that the subject is male, we completely ignore the females in the data. They're out. We only look at the males. 43 right-handed plus 9 left-handed gives us a newly reduced sample space of 52. Step 2, count our target outcomes. We want right-handed males, which is 43. Step 3, divide our target of 43 by our new sample space of 52. The result is 0.8269. See? We just found a new target over a newly restricted sample space.
Section 6. Putting it all together.
We've covered a tremendous amount of mathematical ground today, from basic definitions to conditional logic, so let's lock this material in with a rapid summary of our 3 main takeaways. First, remember that theoretical probabilities always live strictly between 0 and 1. Second, the law of large numbers dictates that real-world, empirical data requires many repetitions to finally match theoretical math. And third, introducing conditional probability simply means you shrink your sample space before you calculate your final odds. I'm going to leave you with this final practical thought. The next time you grab a regular board game out of your closet and roll the die, I want you to look closely at it. Ask yourself, is that die truly fair? Or are those carved-out dots secretly